What's up, friends? Welcome to Web3 Academy, a place for entrepreneurs, creators, and marketers to explore and learn how to use Web3 to transform business models and create thriving communities. Enjoy this next episode.
GM, welcome to Web3 Academy. What's going on? It's the weekly roll-up. Wow, what another crazy week. I keep waiting for the week when we're not going to have any news to share. But here we are again. Jay coming at you from Whistler. What's up, Kai?
What's going on? If we ever have a week where we have no news to share, that's really bad, and we're in the wrong industry, I think. So let's hope that never happens.
I don't really think that ever is going to happen. No. Because I said to my mom the other day that I feel like we're on the frontier of we're like pioneers on the frontier of something new. I don't think she fully got it, but
no, definitely not. The famous bankless quote, "We're going west."
That's right. We're going west. We're going west. Well, welcome to the listeners. Great to have you here. Always excited to share the Web3 news of the week with you guys. Before we get started, just want to take a minute to share some gratitude amongst all the craziness of life. Important to take a deep breath and remember what you're grateful for. I'll start us off today. I am grateful for my morning oats. My morning routine has become simplified because I eat the same thing every day for breakfast, and oats are delicious. I've got it down packed. I've got the recipe. I've got blueberries, banana in there, nice. A little applesauce sometimes. You know, it's just great way to start the day. So grateful for oats.
Amazing. I am grateful for a place called Lance's Left, which is this beautiful long left breaking wave, which is maybe, 20 minutes from where I'm living in Papoyo. You can walk there, I guess, from the town, but it's quite a difficult walk and far. So you usually would pay a fisherman to jump on his boat, and he'll take you with your boards, and then you jump out of his boat and paddle into the waves. And we went on Tuesday morning at about 5 a.m. and it was just beautiful. There was basically nobody there. So it was just like three of my friends and myself. And we just got to surf this huge, beautiful wave. It was overhead and a half kind of size. And just caught some amazing waves. And you don't get that in many places of the world. So super grateful for that opportunity.
Man, I'm jealous. That sounds unreal.
It's crazy.
5 a.m. I bet you got a nice sunrise too.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, unreal. All right. Well, before we jump into the news, Kai, what's our Web3 word of the week?
The Web3 word of the week is optimism. And you're going to see why that's the Web3. One, I am very optimistic about Web3. But as I teased last week, there was potential for an airdrop. And is it ever happening? And is it ever beautiful? Not just about the airdrop itself, but of just kind of what they're doing. So we're going to explore that later in the episode. But optimism is the word of the week.
I love it. Well, on top of exploring optimism today, we're also going to run down some new things that are going on in DeFi with mortgages and crypto payments around Stripe. There's some news that's come out there. Elon bought Twitter. We got to touch on that at some point. We're going to talk about some exciting stuff going on in the NFT space. And we're going to finish off with our NFT of the month, which I am personally super pumped about. And you guys will see why later. But to start off, I think Kai and I, we always talk about the ethos around Web3 and the core values of Web3 and the culture of Web3, which often does not get the greatest image in traditional media. A lot of negativity around crypto, and we really believe it's part of our responsibility to push the positivity, the optimism around Web3, because we're really here for really the purpose of making the planet a better place. And so we just wanted to sort of take a minute to share a little bit of our thoughts around that culture and that ethos of Web3.
Yeah, I think as new people come into the space, they come in because number go up typically, right? There's like big brands coming in, there's money to be made. And I think people forget or have never even learned like what is the actual true underlying purpose of Web3. And so I tweeted out, the entire purpose of Web3 is to build a censorship resistant, permissionless, trustless, and open internet. And so I just said, support the protocols and the tech that is focused on that. Otherwise, we'll end up back in the same place we're already in. So there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of excitement about what Web3 offers. But if we don't continue down the path of building it the right way, if we don't think long-term, then we're going to just end up in the Web2 world of, big entities owning it all anyway, controlling what we do, controlling what we say. And it's like, what's the point in all of this? And so I feel like it's important to keep reminding everyone or keep teaching everyone, like, look, this is what we're doing in Web3. It's not just number go up. It's actually, we're trying to build a better internet that allows freedom of everything. And so I think it's just important to remember that. And thankfully, when I tweeted that, it got a lot of engagement, a lot of likes, and just shows that, like, I guess other people do care about this, thankfully.
Let's just touch on a couple of these words, because there's a lot of the language here that is really particular to Web3, new language that hasn't really been used in the past. Permissionless, trustless, immutable. That word's not in this tweet, but you can just give us a definition of those words.
Right. So permissionless means that, you can interact with a protocol or a blockchain without asking for permission. You don't need to sign up and let them know that you're above the age of 18, or that you're from the United States of America, or that you are whatever, you've made this amount of money. It doesn't matter, right? It's permissionless, which just means that anyone at any time can just go and interact with it. And that we've never really had in the internet before. It's always been gated by some sort of company. And so that is huge. Permissionless. Trustless means that I don't need to trust someone else or another entity to hold my value, right? Right now, everything on the internet is trusted, right?
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually own any of the money that we have in our bank accounts. We trust a bank to hold that money for us, to custody it for us.
Mm-hmm.
When we pay for anything on the internet, we trust a third party like Stripe or PayPal or whatever to make that payment for us, right? We have to trust them, but at any point they could block us, right? And so that's censorship resistant, right? So in Web2, we don't have that, right? We see it all the time with Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, people getting banned, people getting some of their stuff shadow banned where it just doesn't show up anymore because of what you're talking about. So we don't have freedom of speech, right, on the internet, technically. We don't have freedom to own on the internet, technically, which you do in the US, particularly. And so those are kind of like, this is the idea of Web3 is, if you think of what in the physical world, I can give someone money, and that is like with cash, and that is freedom to transact, right? Freedom to trade with someone, and no one can stop that, right? And so on the internet, we don't have that yet. And that's really what Web3 is trying to build. Also, I can speak to someone, I can say whatever I want to someone in the physical world. No one can just stop that. And I can't do that in the digital world, but that's kind of the promise of Web3. But in order to do that, we need the protocols and the blockchains that we're using to be censorship resistant, to be permissionless, to be trustless, and to be fully open. If we start to build blockchains that aren't those, which those do exist in this space already, then we lose this, and everything we think we're building is all for nothing anyway.
Yeah. The other word that we hear a lot is immutable. Can you explain that quickly?
Yeah, immutable is basically it can't be changed. So you can't go back and alter whatever it was, right? You can't go back and alter what you said or alter what you, maybe you gave someone money, you invested in something, or you transacted something. Someone can't go back and just alter that for you, right? Which can happen in the Web2 world, of course. And so that's kind of the idea of immutability.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And so the product that comes from blockchains that are all of these things is block space. And we talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago in the roll up. And to me, I think block space is the most important product of the 2020s, because block space is basically freedom of speech on the internet, right? Block space is freedom to transact on the internet. Block space is freedom to own on the internet. Block space is freedom to interact permissionlessly on the internet. Without block space, we have none of that. We don't get that. So block space ends up becoming this very valuable and important product, which we're already seeing. I mean, yes, to interact and to transact on Ethereum is quite expensive, but it's because it's the most permissionless, the most decentralized, the most immutable, the most whatever. It's all of those things. And it is the most of all the other blockchains, which means there is a lot of demand to use that. Right. And so, of course, it costs a lot to use that because there's a lot of demand and a little supply. Now they're working on that with layer 2s and things and other blockchains. But you can already see there's so much demand to have freedom to do all of these things on the internet because it's never existed and now it does. It's just not a lot of it yet. We need more block space. And I'm optimistic, if that gives it away, that this is going to happen.
Yeah. And I think what this means to me, and what I think this should mean to our listeners, is to participate, right? Like, I think that, there's so much happening in this space. There's so much growth, and you can often feel left behind. You can often feel confused or lost, and that's okay. And the only way to learn and to be involved is just to participate, right? Get a digital wallet, transact with that digital wallet, buy some crypto or buy an NFT, and just see. Don't go spend your life savings. This is not financial advice, but just engage and participate. And take a look at Etherscan. If you have a crypto wallet and you've bought crypto or you've bought NFTs, go look at your Etherscan, look up your address on Etherscan and see, oh my gosh, look at how readily available this data is, how permissionless, how trustless it is. Like, it's something that once you engage with more, you learn more.
Etherscan is like a ledger, basically, where you can go and see all the transactions that have ever happened on a public blockchain. It's very interesting and something we should share and talk about more actually in the future.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. All right, shifting gears. One of Kyle's favorite memes. What?
So
for the listeners, what do we got?
This is a picture of, I don't know who this is. Do we know who this guy is? Is he
no
like
clue.
A celebrity or anything? No. Okay. So it's just a dude with a solid mullet and a sweet mustache. And it looks like he's from, I don't know, the 80s or the 90s kind of thing. Cause he's also got like a golf shirt with a purple collar on it and stripes. So, but it just says fintech in the front, DeFi in the back. And this is something we talked about. We often talk about is like, the DeFi applications and protocols that are trustless and permissionless, et cetera. We're probably not going to use those. Like, most people are not going to use those. You can, right? Because it's permissionless, so anyone can use it. But what's really going to happen is the good UX applications will be built on top of that, right? So you'll have fintech, which is like your PayPals, et cetera, which are very user friendly. And that's what we'll interact with and use. That's fintech in the front, DeFi is in the back, which is they're going to build on top of these protocols because, again, they're permissionless, they're decentralized, no one can stop it. And they'll use those foundation layers, and we'll just use the fintech on the front. And so that's the mullet, right? You got fintech in the front, DeFi in the back, party in the front, or no, what is it? Something in the front, party in the back.
It's oh my gosh, what is it? Yeah, I can't remember.
Whatever it is. Anyway,
it'll come later.
Stripe is basically starting this off with the DeFi mullet here. And they're introducing crypto payments. And so what's really cool here is, I mean, everyone uses Stripe. Like, most websites are using Stripe to pay and to process payments. And now what you can do, and it's still just a pilot project, but one of the features they have now is you can actually just click over and pay with crypto. And what you do is you connect with your Web3 wallet, so your MetaMask wallet, et cetera. You just connect in, you choose what you're going to pay with. So I think it's just USDC right now. Yeah. And it automatically makes the payment for you. And so to the user, this is amazing because they're used to paying with Stripe, but with a credit card. And now it's just click crypto wallet and it just connects into your wallet and away you go. And so it's actually easier than using a credit card because you don't have to put in any details. You literally just connect the wallet that's in your browser and boom, the payment's made. So they're testing this right now with Twitter for, I think, creators and things that are on Twitter. They're now going to be able to get, I don't know if it's tips or payouts, but they'll start there with Twitter and then they'll expand out further. They wrote an article about this. So here's what's really cool. It's not just that now you can pay with crypto. One of the things that that is difficult for some countries around the world is they can't actually use the payment rails that Stripe uses. So Stripe has to use US payment rails. I don't think it's Swift, but I forget what the rails are that they use. But anyway, they have to use that. And any countries that are sanctioned or don't have access into those, they can't use Stripe. And so there's a lot of countries in the world. I'm not sure if they put it in here of how many.
70.
Today, businesses around the world use Connect to programmatically send payouts to over 70 countries in local currencies. But while we are continuously expanding our geographic coverage, many countries remain out of reach in part due to the intrinsic complexity involved in supporting these local payment systems. Unfortunately, this makes participation in the online economy harder for many of those who stand to benefit the most. So imagine living in a country where you can't buy things on Amazon or buy things on, like, I don't know, most websites, right? Like, this sucks. This really sucks for development of that country, for growth of that country, because they can't buy all the things that everyone else can buy around the world. And so, only 70 countries. I don't know how many countries are in the world, but there's a lot. And Stripe,
over 200 countries in the world. So
right. So Stripe can only manage and work with 70 right now. That's all it has. What it says here, though, is using this, using a crypto wallet, it can now reach everybody in the world. So anyone who has internet access, who can get a Web3 wallet, which is anyone because it's permissionless, they now, well, once this goes live to the world, they can now use Stripe. And so because of Web3 and this permissionless functionality, all of a sudden Stripe can now open to billions of people instead of whatever it is with just the 70 countries. So a huge, huge, huge unlock to the world for online payments. Kudos to Web3 and its ethos.
And the two use cases that pop out to me for this, when we talk about the 130 plus countries in the world that don't currently have the ability to transact online, is education and work, right? So, you think about education in a developing country. Well, the amazing thing about the internet is the access to incredible online education, online courses. Well, imagine that you couldn't buy that, right? And now you can, right? Once this rolls out. Or another one is work, right? You're an online worker, you're trying to get a freelance job outside of your country, and you want your employer to send you money, and that can be difficult, right? And so really two big unlocks for the developing world and for opportunity for these people to grow and to be able to accelerate their life and improve their life.
100%. Super cool unlock. Exciting.
All right.
Speaking of Twitter integrating Stripe payouts, take it away, Jay. Take it away. What happened?
Elon did it. He fucking did it. I'm sure you heard the news by now. Elon Musk officially is the new owner of Twitter. For $44 billion, he has purchased Twitter, and Twitter is now a privately held company. I don't know how much we want to get into the reaction of this.
Twitter is not a privately held company yet. He's just now the owner of it. He can take it private, which he has not yet done. That'll take some time.
Right. Sorry. Well, likely will be. It's headed in that direction.
Right.
So yeah, line from the Twitter board. The Twitter board said, "We conducted a thoughtful and comprehensive process to assess Elon's proposal with a deliberate focus on values, certainty, and financing. The proposed transaction will deliver a substantial cash premium, and we believe it is the best path forward for Twitter's stockholders." What a negotiation this was. I mean, I'm sure you saw the amount of memes that I saw about the negotiation. The fastest negotiation there's ever been, and all public for us all to watch. Just straight to the point. What's going to happen next? What does this mean? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? To be seen. But very, very big news for Twitter, and hopefully will be a good thing, because it will open up freedom of speech and will allow, assuming Elon takes this in the right direction, will allow more of the Web3 ethos that we talked about at the beginning.
Well, that's the thing here. And this goes back to, again, the ethos is this will help everyone kind of understand is like, yes, Elon is pro freedom of speech. He's pro a lot of the things I think that we want and that Web3 wants, whether he integrates Web3 or not, I don't know. But here's the thing. It's still owned by one person. And so we still have to trust one person. So this is not trustless. And that's, again, the promise and kind of what Web3 is and why it's so important. Because what if Elon has a bad day? He wakes up, someone pissed him off, and he's like, you know what? Screw freedom of speech. Like he just wants to switch it. He can. And because he's the majority, or not the majority, he's the sole owner of this company. And so whatever he wants, he can do. And that's the problem with Web2 is it is in control of certain people. And we don't want that. We want it to be in control of the community or the users, the people that actually use these protocols or these products. So super cool. I believe in, and I'm optimistic that Elon's going to do well with Twitter. But it still sucks that we have to trust. And that's the whole thing.
All right. Next up, another sort of DeFi mullet application is there's a lot happening around mortgages and real estate within the crypto space and the DeFi space, mainly targeted at the amount of crypto rich that are out there that have tons of crypto assets. But if you want to go get a mortgage, and in traditional finance, what they're going to use as collateral for your mortgage is your bank account and your current employment, right? So they want to see your salary, and they want an employer to be the one that's showing you that.
You need permission, is what he's saying.
Exactly. You need permission, right? You need permission. And so not only do a lot of crypto people struggle to get mortgages, freelancers struggle to get mortgages because they don't have that salary and that employment letter. So the permission, the bank is not in favor. So this is an example of one, and there is many that I keep seeing pop up, a lot happening in this space, of a bank that is allowing people to purchase homes while continuing to hold their crypto. Because one thing you don't want to do with a lot of crypto people don't want to give up their crypto, because if you sell your crypto, you then have to pay tax on it because it's capital gain, and you possibly lose out on the upside, which a lot of people are holding for the long term, diamond hands, right? So what's interesting is that there's so many ways that this is being done. In this case, the way it's being done, I'm just trying to find it in the article, is that okay, so this twist here, instead of simply paying for property with tokens, borrowers pledge their digital assets as collateral, no down payments necessary. That enables the holders to keep their coins, avoiding taxes on capital gains, and theoretically benefiting from rising values for both tokens and the real estate. It also heightens risk by using a volatile asset to finance purchases at a time the heated US property market faces a slow downturn from the fastest jump in borrowing costs in decades.
So basically, they're getting a loan by putting up their crypto as collateral. Exactly. And this loan is specific to houses, and it's a bank that's doing this. So yes, which is cool. I mean, I think we're going to see tons of this. Like, why would you not, right? It's harder to do this with traditional assets because, like, what are you going to do with gold? You're going to lug a bunch of gold over to the bank and be like, here, keep this as collateral, and then give me, 500,000 so I can buy this house or whatever. It's like, it didn't really work. And you can't really do it with like stocks and stuff because, well, you don't really own those stocks. You just have a paper, you know what I mean? Like a piece of paper that is like an IOU to that stock. So like banks wouldn't want to accept that. What's interesting though, is when you own crypto, you actually own it. It is an asset that you actually own, not custodied by someone else. And so you can give that to them to hold as collateral, and it makes sense. And as crypto becomes less volatile, as it becomes more popular and distributed across more people, I think it's going to be a great tool. And yeah, you don't have to sell and take taxes. It's incredible. Now, again, this is the way to do it with traditional. You can also go to something like MakerDAO and you can do it permissionlessly, right? You can do it through smart contracts where you don't have to trust someone, and you can put your Bitcoin up for collateral, or sorry, your ETH up for collateral right now, and you can get a loan in DAI, which is like a stable coin, and you can go buy whatever you want with that. And this way I mean, the interest is also way cheaper, typically, but you don't have to trust the bank or get permission, right? Because like Jay said, if you're a freelancer and you don't have, whatever, a steady income, you might not get that loan. So really cool what it's unlocking here, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And sticking with the real estate, I've got pulled up here a company called Lofty Marketplace, which is a tokenized real estate investment opportunity. So you can buy $50 of real estate using tokens.
Right. So it's like fractionalized. I wonder, I would assume what's happening here is the house or the land, could be either, is an NFT. And then you can fractionalize the NFT. And so you end up creating a fungible token. Let's say you have 100 or 1,000 or whatever of these tokens that represent that NFT. And now you can distribute those tokens to a bunch of owners instead of just one person on an NFT. Now you have it sort of fractionalized and a bunch of people can own that. I actually did this with, I think it's called fractionalized NFT is the protocol, but you can go and let's say you have a very expensive, high value NFT, like a CryptoPunk or a Bored Ape Yacht Club. You can toss it in there. It spits out tokens for you. And then you can distribute it on Uniswap and people can buy it and own part of it. So I owned, a guy has like 108 CryptoPunks or something like that. It's insane. And the value is like $30 million or something. And so I bought, I think like $500 of it or something, just to own, like get some upside towards CryptoPunks, which is cool because most people can't afford a CryptoPunk, but you could still get the upside to it if you bought the fractionalized token. And this is the same with real estate now, which is cool.
Yeah. And really cool to see that unlock of fractionalized ownership it's going to make investing in things much easier for anybody.
Right. The other thing that's cool is like you could buy a massive piece of land and then what people usually do is they buy a big piece of land and then you split it up right into lots and then you sell those lots. You could buy a massive piece of land. You could split those lots up via NFT and now you can sell them to people. And then if that land continues to sell, because maybe it's like way before development is in that city, as the original owner of that land, you could put royalties on it. And so every time that land sells via NFT, you actually create a little bit of income on it. So that's kind of cool as well.
Yeah. It's an interesting use case. All right, let's get optimistic.
Okay, so we talked about this last week, Optimism, which is a layer 2 of Ethereum. And this is, I don't know, I guess I don't need to explain what a layer 2 is. I think we've already talked about it. Or do you think that we should cover that, Jay?
I think you should explain it.
Okay, so layer 2s. Okay, so blockchains have this sort of like trilemma for scaling. So basically, the more decentralized a blockchain is, the less scale it typically has, right? This is why Ethereum is so expensive. There's only a certain amount of block space that it has. And once there's more people that want to transact on that, the gas, like the costs go up really, really high because the more decentralized means the more people that have to like verify what's happening essentially. So there's sort of a trilemma between decentralization, between speed and then costs. And so some blockchains just say screw decentralization and we're just going to allow this thing to be extremely fast and we're going to allow there to be as much block space as possible so that it's super cheap, but there's only a couple people validating the blockchain, which is a very big like centralization component. And that's a big issue, right? So like Binance Smart Chain, for example, it's fast, fees are pretty low. It's basically a copy of Ethereum, except there's like 18 validators all owned by Binance and that's it. So it can be fast. There can be lots of block space and they can sell it for very cheap. But at any point, Binance could just be like, shut it down, right? It's only 18. Whereas Ethereum has like, I don't know, 300,000 validators, right? So a big difference. So there's always been this like, this sort of trade-off. And that's kind of how layer 1's blockchains have always worked is like, you're either very decentralized and it's expensive or the opposite, or you're somewhere in between. But what always happens is the moment that a blockchain starts to get busy and a lot of people start to use it because it's cheap, Well, the demand goes up, but the supply doesn't change. And so what ends up happening is the gas fees go up. So even Binance Smart Chain, for example, has started to get somewhat expensive, even though it was built to be super, super cheap, but because a bunch of people just started going there. And so if you want to onboard 1 billion people to a blockchain, that's never going to work. It's just going to get clogged, the same thing. So what Ethereum has done and what their scalability solution is, well, why don't we build blockchains on top of blockchains? And so the way that's what Optimism is a layer 2, right? And so basically, this is a blockchain that doesn't need to worry about decentralization because it gets it all from Ethereum. So you do all the transactions on these layer 2s, but it's not actually securing it. What it's doing is it's taking all the transactions that happened and then it's bundling all up into one, and then it's activating or sort of like running all those transactions all at once through Ethereum. So it takes, let's say, 1 million transactions, bundles it into one, and then does one transaction on Ethereum. So it's still using Ethereum's decentralization security, but it's super cheap because, you know, 1 million people are splitting that one transaction now, right? So what's interesting about this is the more that people use these layer 2s, the cheaper it gets. So it actually has flipped this scalability trilemma on its head. Is that the term? And so the more that people use these blockchains, the cheaper it gets, and the faster it gets, which is completely different than every other layer 1 blockchain. It's not possible on layer 1 blockchains. So anyway, this is sort of the future in most researchers and like people that have been in the space for a long time. This is the future of where we go. We're all going to use the layer 2s and no humans will use the layer 1. So anyway, Optimism, Arbitrum is another one. They launched back in September. They've just been kind of working out the kinks. It's very new technology. And they have all the big apps are now on there and users can use it. I think it gained traction to about, 300,000 or so people, or 400,000 or so have been using it. And they got to the point where they were able to take off the training wheels. Well, where now basically it's no longer a centralized protocol. It's basically like a public good, just like Ethereum is, and it looks and feels and works the exact same as Ethereum at this point. And so it was ready to go, okay, let's let this thing free and let's get mega growth because it's working and it's kind of set up. So what they launched and announced on, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, is that they are launching a token called OP. And so this token is to do a few things, retroactively sort of like reward the community for helping use it, even though it wasn't like this fully decentralized protocol yet. So it helps reward the like early testers and members of the community, whether you're a builder, you're just a user, or you're a core contributor kind of thing. And then also the way that this works and the reason you drop these is now you have governance. So the future of Optimism is now being determined by the community rather than just the, let's say, investors or the core contributors. So that's their big announcement. This airdrop is very different than many of the other ones. And it's very exciting actually to what th's going to do. So let's dive through some of this so we can kind of share what's happening here. So the airdrop is going to 250,000 wallet addresses. So that's not people, because some people use multiple addresses. In fact, I'm getting an airdrop to 2 different wallets, which is exciting. But anyway, it's a lot of addresses, a lot of people that are getting this. And this is just the first airdrop. They actually announced they're going to do multiple because they want to continue to reward the community and the people that stay involved and stay using it. So can you actually open up that picture there? It's very interesting. Yeah, just click on that picture. So it's very interesting the way they did this airdrop. Usually people just airdrop the same amount to everyone. It's just like, if you've used this protocol in the past, you get a token, which is cool, but not really, because a lot of people farm these airdrops, right? They know that a token's probably coming because they know that protocol wants to decentralize. So people just go and do like, wash trades or whatever. So here's what Optimism did that I think a lot of others are going to start doing, because this is very interesting, is so one, anyone who made a transaction on Optimism prior to June 23rd, 2021, they will get a certain amount of tokens. Okay. So there's 85,000 people that did this. Then there's repeat Optimism users. So those who are like the power users, let's say. But then what Optimism did is, this is more of a growth strategy and a strategy to like onboard people who care about Ethereum ecosystem, care about scaling, and just care about public goods. So what they did, and this is, we'll show you the results of this soon because it's pretty incredible, is what they did is they rewarded anyone who's ever voted in a DAO on the Ethereum ecosystem ever. Doesn't matter if you've ever even touched Optimism. If you've ever voted in a DAO, you are eligible to get some Optimism tokens. So what a great marketing tool and growth tool to bring people into your ecosystem. If all of a sudden you look in your wallet and you've got these tokens from OP, you're gonna be like, well, what's this, right? And you also, the way you claim them is by doing it on Optimism. So now you have to use their protocol. So what a sweet idea. Then you have multi-sig owners. So these are all, anyone who has a multi-sig is typically a business owner or someone who's contributing to a project. And so they get the Optimism token. So now you're getting the right people, right? You're getting entrepreneurs and like people who are controlling protocols and companies onto Optimism as well. So that's really cool. They have Gitcoin donors. So anyone who's ever donated on chain through Gitcoin is also going to get rewarded here. Amazing, because one of the things Optimism wants to do is the value that comes, or the liquidity that comes from this Optimism token. It's going to be in the hundreds of millions, probably billions, I would guess, pretty early on. And what they want to do is, and also Optimism generates a lot of revenue. What they want to do is take that money and invest it / donate it to public goods. So public goods could be something like POAP, for example, is a public good, right? Which is a proof of attendance protocol that allows you to just make an NFT out of nowhere. No, they don't make any money from that. It's essentially a public good. They want more things like that because that's sort of the ethos of Web3. The final one, and this is really interesting because this is sort of the war between L2s and then all the new alt L1s like Solana and Avalanche, et cetera, is people were priced out of ETH, right? Out of Ethereum. So they had to go elsewhere. And so what Optimism has done here is anyone who is priced out of ETH, which they define as they're still active on Ethereum. So they were on Ethereum at some point, but they bridged over to Polygon, to Arbitrum, to Solana, to Gnosis chain. Anyone who's done that is also going to get rewarded with these OP tokens, which is cool because a lot of times people say, well, Ethereum is a whale chain, and I don't get these airdrops and things because we just can't afford it. Well, now everyone, all those people, they do. And so really, really cool marketing tool, growth tool, and just overall, I think this is going to make the ecosystem grow like crazy. And I think more protocols will do something similar to this. We'll see.
Yeah, a couple of things that I find very interesting about this. One is this tactic of airdrops, as you mentioned, as a growth and marketing tool is just in such a phase of evolution, right? Like what an airdrop looked like a year ago is not what it looks like today. And Optimism is clearly leading the way by involving more people in their airdrop. But I think the other thing that is really important for us all to understand here is just a little bit about the back end of what enables this. And when we compare it to Web 2, it's a great comparison. So in Web 2, if you wanted to reward your customers, or even like your potential customers, your potential users, the only way you really have to do that is to hope that you have all their email addresses or their mailing address. Before Web 2, you could have sent them something in the mail, right. And then with Web 2, you could email them, right?
Or their pixel. You could also pixel, but then you have to pay. Then you have to pay that centralized company in order to use that pixel and put your whatever it is you want to reward them in front of them.
And then you would only be accessing them. You wouldn't be directly accessing them. No, you would be getting in front of them somewhere where they are online, right? But now with blockchain and digital wallets, you can do what Optimism is doing, which was not possible before. And so it's a really big unlock for the potential of reaching customers, really, right? And exactly what they're doing, because you look at this list here, so there's about 250,000 people on this list that they're airdropping to, and I'm just going to try to do quick math, but I would say I would say that about over half of those might not have even used Optimism before. Right. They might, and so that's what a reach to reach those customers and be able to bring them into your world and your ecosystem.
Absolutely. Not to mention they said this is one airdrop. So they said there's going to be more airdrops. And so what happens, we can actually skip this one because we just went through that. But what happens when you tell people that an airdrop is coming, actually skip to the next one, because we'll show this growth stat first. What happens when you tell people that there might be an airdrop? People start using your product because they want that free money. Look at this chart here. So for those that are listening and can't see, this is a chart of unique addresses on Optimism. And before this announcement, there was 350,000 addresses on Optimism. And in one day that bumped to 806,500. So an increase in one day of 456,000 addresses. That is insane growth. Absolutely insane growth. And again, I bet you that this chart continues to go up. I bet you that's not just a one-time thing. Insane. Now, okay, so it's not all about growth. What they're really doing here, they're also kind of pioneering and experimenting with governance. That's really the idea of this. And Optimism has been one of the leaders of really trying to make governance fair and equal, trying to make things and continue to stick with the decentralized route. And so what they did is they actually launched 2 tokens. So they launched OP, which is what we just talked about. Everyone's going to get that. And then they launched something called, it's called the Citizen House, I think. Yeah, the Citizen's House. And this is where people will get to vote. And you can't buy this. This is actually an NFT, and there's only, I don't know, a certain amount of them. And basically, the way that you get this token to vote is you have to earn it. And so it might be by contributing, it might be by using. There are many different reasons or ways of which you could earn these tokens. But this is really cool because a lot of people farm this stuff, right? Like a lot of users, so either farm it and just game it, so because they know the airdrop's coming, or they don't really know anything. Like I probably wouldn't be good to vote on Optimism and where the protocol goes, because I'm not a tech person per se. I'm not a developer by any means. And I don't know, I understand this stuff a little bit, but not enough that my vote should really matter. But there are many people who are really heavily involved and care, and they should probably be the ones who are voting, or at least have more voting rights than I do, right? Because if I wanted, I could just buy $100,000 worth of these tokens right now and have a big vote in this. And that doesn't make any sense. And that's often what's happening right now in our DAOs. And so Optimism's trying to change that. And instead they're doing an NFT voting system whereby you have to earn these tokens. And so Vitalik is actually tweeted this out, and he says, possibly the biggest attempt at non-token holder centric DAO governance so far. Excited to see where this goes. So if Vitalik is eyeing this, then it's something that's out there, and it has some potential. Vitalik's been a big proponent of he hates the whole one token is one vote. Doesn't make any sense because people can just buy their votes. This is going to change the game. Hopefully, we'll see how it plays out. This is an experiment.
Yeah, I think that the governance side of tokens is not a side that we talk a lot about, because it's just not as exciting and sexy as the speculation and price goes upside, and that's where everyone's focused. But the potential for tokenomics to change governance is enormous across all of our institutions and organizations in such a positive way, but nobody's really figured it out yet, right? It's still in this evolution. So very exciting to see how these guys here are doing it, because, oh my gosh, my phone is ringing. Apologies. Sorry.
Party foul.
Party foul, yeah. Yeah, so really exciting to see different usages of governance.
And one thing to note is so Optimism is a protocol. It's a public good that is holding already close to $1 billion, or has $1 billion of value locked into it. And it will be multiple billions, hundreds of billions in the future. So this needs to be fully decentralized. And so a decentralized fair governance really matters here. You don't need to take this much thought and effort into governance if you're something smaller. A small little DAO doesn't need this crazy amount of decentralization. There's a spectrum that's required here. And if you're a small little business or something, you don't need this. So don't think that, oh, Optimus is doing this, now everyone has to do this. And if they don't, then it's a shit product because it's not fully decentralized wasn't this fair governance. Like, no, you don't. Like, this is going to be, because of this, it's probably going to be slow to make decisions, but that makes sense when it impacts, millions of users and billions of dollars. But a smaller business, like, guys, sometimes an entrepreneur, one person making decisions is actually really good. That's how you get shit done. And that's how you build innovations and products, right? Like Vitalik was on his own when he first started the idea of Ethereum, and it probably would have never happened if it was 100,000 people all voting. Yeah. Like, this thing would have never got built. So like, there's spectrums, and it's okay. You don't there's trade-offs, and it's fine, right? You need different things for different products, different businesses. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think of the chat we had with, we did an interview with Jeff Kaufman from JumpDAO on Tuesday earlier this week. And we talked about the hype of decentralization, but the good and the bad of it. And it's exactly what Kai just said, is that in the beginning, decentralization is slow and difficult. You've got to start with centralization. You got to start with a small team and not scale fast, because, and I think a lot of people in the Web3 space are making that mistake by just aiming at, oh, how can I get the most people involved, build the biggest community as fast as possible, get as many people involved in my DAO. And that just makes it sluggish and slow, and you lose engagement. You need, if you're giving out decentralization, you're giving out voting to a whole bunch of people, then you have to worry about getting them to vote and getting them engaged. And that's difficult, right? Think about even just getting citizens to vote in our government elections is difficult, right? So
when the decision of whatever it is that you do, or your app does, or your protocol does, whatever, when it impacts a lot of people, that's when it needs to be decentralized. When it doesn't impact a lot of people, it should not be decentralized, because that makes no sense, right? Yeah. And even if your idea is to like Twitter, for example, that should be decentralized, because a lot of people rely on this to communicate with others around the world. And if Twitter shut down, that would impact a lot of people. Same with Facebook, right? So the idea is start centralized, build, and when it becomes something important or holds a lot of value, then you decentralize, because decentralization removes the risk of getting shut down, right? And so that's when you want to decentralize, is like, as things become bigger and more important. And even if your idea is to build something that's big and important, it's not when you first start it. So just start centralized and then decentralize as you go, which is exactly what Optimism did, right? Like, they've been centralized, they still are actually, but they started decentralizing their protocol, and now they're decentralizing governance. But it took time. Like, they've been in business for years, right? They've been building for like 5 years now.
Well, and we could probably keep going down this, but I just want to pull on one more quick thread here that I think is really interesting. Is the old model would have been to go public, right? So a Web2 business, what did they all do? Twitter, Facebook, Amazon, they all went public. And what happens when you go public? Now your core objective is to shareholder profits and shareholder gains, right? And so you become fully focused on what makes the most profit, which is what leads to, increase price, decrease expenses, focus on margin, and you're run by a board that has that singular objective, right? But now in the Web3 space, you have this potential to grow, to raise capital, without having to go public, and you can actually achieve that same level of growth, but you can do so in a way that is decentralized. And that is, a huge shift in the way that we're building companies and building some of the biggest companies in the world.
Absolutely.
Okay. That was exciting. I'm optimistic.
Exactly. And so speaking of growth, this is a chart for those of you that can't see that are listening, of Web3 monthly active developers since 2009. And it's basically just going, basically what it's doing is when price goes up, it goes up. It goes exponentially up. When price kind of evens out, well, this was during the bear market of 2018, 2020. You can see it just kind of stayed around the same. It still grew, but it was like not a lot of growth. And then 2020, when prices started to take off, the developers basically doubled, getting close to double by the end of 2021. And then, so this chart only goes to December 2021. I'd be really interested to see what's happened over the last few months, because price has not been going up. It's gone down, right? Or slash sideways for the last little while. But investment has gone up like crazy into VC. So I wonder if there's more, like if they're continuing to grow or not. We need an updated chart on this at some point, and we can share that. I know some friends were at Dev Connect in Amsterdam this weekend, and every single protocol there was hiring. And basically what they said is, look, we've basically hired, like, there's just no devs left in Web3 is what they were saying. It's like they've hired them all, and there's no more to go around. So it's like we need to figure out a way to onboard the Web2 devs over to Web3 because there's just basically none left. So I don't know. I'd be interested to see what the chart for 2022.
So if you're looking for a new career, go learn Solidity and become a Web3 dev.
Yeah, and if you have the updated chart, please tag me on Twitter and post it and send me it, or put it in the Discord channel, whatever. This is another chart, which is kind of interesting. I don't know what we can take away from it exactly, but it's looking at the number of ETH and BTC addresses with a balance of less than 0.01 native units of BTC or ETH. And so basically 0.01 would be sort of, it's not whales, right? It's not institutions. It's basically anyone at this point could potentially hold that. The only difference here is like 0.01 of Bitcoin is a lot more than 0.01 of ETH. So it's kind of weird to compare this. You almost need to compare US dollar rather than the native unit. But basically you see from, 2017 on, Ethereum has just been exponential rise, like nonstop, just going through the roof. Bitcoin's as well is growing. It's just growing much slower. And I think what I take away from this, and again, we'd have to compare on USD numbers rather than native units, but what I think you see is there's so much more utility in a smart contract platform than there is on a store of value blockchain, which is what we can call Bitcoin. And so you're just going to onboard so many more users into smart contract platforms like Ethereum and Solana, et cetera, than you are Bitcoin. And again, it's not to take away from what Bitcoin is, but Bitcoin's doing something very important in the world, hopefully, if it continues to grow as it does. But like, I think over the last few years, you can see that the market has spoken, and they care more about gaming and NFTs and, all the different things, like the social aspects of tokens and all the different things that you can do with the smart contracts. People care about that more than they do just like buying and holding.
Yeah, Bitcoin's not as fun, It's not fun to just buy and hold. Like, I want to do stuff. I want to participate.
There's no moonbirds on Bitcoin.
No. I think the other point this chart makes is the point around the timeline here. So this chart goes up to January 2022, and it starts in January 10, although Ethereum doesn't even come on this chart until January 2016, January 2017. And Bitcoin is basically, at like 100,000 people, even less, up until like January 2013. But when it really starts to go, it's like January 2016, January 2017. And at that point, we're at about 2.5 million addresses. And now here we are 6 years later, and we're at 10 million addresses for Bitcoin and 22.5 million for Ethereum. So really, this is it's hyperbolic growth, right?
It's network effects. So for anyone who's ever looked into, like, if you invest in tech, you're looking for network effects. That's why Facebook grew so much, right? Network effect, or Metcalfe's law, is basically one more person comes on, that's exponentially better for the network, because one more person tells all their friends. And when one more person comes on, that means more people want to come on because now one of their friends are on. And then when another friend comes on, you want to be on even more, right? And it continues to grow and grow and grow. And that just like spreads and spreads exponentially. That's kind of Metcalfe's law. And if you think like Bitcoin has that, absolutely. And that's why it's had this amazing growth. But if you think of Ethereum's network effects or smart contract platforms network effects, it's not just the network effects of money, right? Or the network effects of developers coming on. It's the network effects of artists. And it's the network effects of like these like DeFi. So people are into DeFi. There's a network effect there. There's a network effect of those who care about art. There's a network effect for those who care about music. There's a network effect for those who care about DAOs. And it's like a bunch of network effects compiling on top of other network effects. And that's just like, it's insane. You know, it's absolutely insane.
Brain goes.
Right. Yeah. All right, let's move along. We got to.
All right, let's keep moving. Some exciting news out of the NFT space to share. Some quick hits for you guys. Nike launched their first NFT. So as you guys might remember, Nike purchased Artifact Studios. I believe like end of last year, maybe like November, December of last year. And they have now launched their first NFT, which is these digital sneakers. And since launch, and launch was what, like a week ago? Not long ago. Since launch, these NFTs are now trading. I was taking a look at them. I think there's 3 or 4 collections of sneakers, and they're trading at about 2 to 3 ETH now on secondary market. There was even one pair that sold for 150 ETH, which is the equivalent of about 450,000 US dollars. So there's a lot of activity, a lot of action happening here. I think the reason that we bring this up, and Adidas also has been making their play into the metaverse when they launched their NFT about 6 months ago as well. And so, but the reason we bring this up is whether or not you believe in the metaverse and what's happening there, there's a lot of big brands that are making their plays into that space. And some people wondered when Nike launched their shoe, would it come with a physical shoe as well? Like, would you be getting a digital shoe and a physical shoe? And as of right now, no, you're not. You're just getting the digital shoe. And we've also seen Dolce & Gabbana, other fashion companies are leaning into the metaverse space because there's this belief that as we spend more time in the metaverse and our avatars are there, fashion matters, and we care about the type of shoes that we're wearing and the shirts that we're wearing. And I'll be the first to say this sounds crazy to me as well, right?
Well, are these shoes, can I put them on like my avatar? Like if I own a Meebit, can I put the shoe on my Meebit? Is that how it works?
I don't know if you can do that yet, but I think that's the general idea.
That's probably where it's going to go.
That's where it's going. Yeah.
The terminology, can you scroll up? The terminology they're using in this article is absolutely amazing. So first of all, these are called crypto kicks, which I think that's hilarious. And then they say, since the virtual sneakers launched, crypto punters have been buying them for between whatever price. What is a crypto punter?
Is that like a trader or like a
yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
A flipper.
It's so funny. They look cool though. I mean, they look sweet. We'll see what they do. I'm sure Nike, I mean, look, Adidas did the same thing. They launched their NFTs. People were like, what are these for? And then they started doing a bunch of cool things. And if you owned those original NFTs, you got a bunch of sweet stuff, whether it was experiences or I think they did real physical stuff. And so I'm sure Nike's going to do something similar. Yeah.
Well, and it also sort of, it connects to a couple of things of the power of NFTs. One is that you can build on top of that project. So somebody who buys in early, you can gift them something later. The other thing that Nike has done here, or Artifact Studios has done, is they've developed skins. And so I think right now you can just purchase these skins and basically upgrade your shoe, right? And make it more valuable and more rare. But what other people are doing is they're saying you can play a game or you can interact. And as a result of playing that game, then you get a skin and you can upgrade your shoe. And that gets into the play to earn space. So yeah, lots of really interesting applications. Anything else to add there, Kai? So let's wrap up here with our NFT of the month. Our NFT of the month is,
this one's an obvious one, I think.
Moonbirds. Obvious. Is it obvious because I am a super stoked and proud Moonbirds holder? Hoot hoot.
I think that, and because it's basically all the rage of NFTs at the moment, so it's a bit of both, but
truly wild what's happened. And so I'm not I'm not going to dive into the Moonbird story because I feel like it's been told a million times, and you've probably read about it or heard about it. What I actually want to focus on is why Moonbirds is such an interesting project. And one of the reasons why it's such an interesting project is it's really a utility project, right? The entire purpose of this project is utility. And one of the areas of utility is called nesting. The more common term in crypto and Web3 space is staking. And a lot of these projects are using this idea of you can stake your asset and put it into a locked space. And as a result, you gain rewards for that. Now, because these are birds, they called it nesting, which is quite clever. And it's great. It's tons of fun. I nested my Moonbird, and what this allows is in 30 days, I've been told, or we've all been told, that we will get our first reward. So when you make it to 30 days, my nest will generate some sort of reward for me. I have no idea what that reward is. I don't expect it to be considerable in terms of its monetary value. You know, I could see it being, they actually took our addresses in the reward system. So possibly they're going to mail maybe they're going to mail us stickers or like a t-shirt or something like that with your Moonbird on it. I could see that being it. Or it could be a digital reward because obviously it's easy for them to airdrop something to our wallet. But what's interesting is just some stats around this. So actually I'm going to pull up Dune. Dune is a great site if you haven't used it before for looking up stats on the blockchain. It's like an analytics site. Currently, there are about 9,000, there's 10,000 Moonbirds total, and about 9,000 are nested. So that's 90% that are nested, right? Very high number. And what the Moonbirds team has talked a lot about is that what you want to be able to do if you're starting a business is you want to be able to reward your most loyal customers, right? The early people deserve the lion's share of your rewards. And we talked earlier about Optimism and their airdrop. And what Bored Ape Yacht Club did when they did their airdrop was there was no, you got, when they airdropped ApeCoin, you got ApeCoin whether you had owned your Bored Ape from the beginning or whether you just bought it the day before. There was no difference, right? And so there's this idea of how do you reward loyalty, and which is, I think, really exciting in what Moonbirds is doing. And another example of a reward that they've talked about is, so in NFTs, it's very common. I'm sure you've heard of, there's 10,000 or there's 7,000 or 8,000. And what they do is with these number of the collection, they have rarity within that collection. And so within the Moonbirds collection, Kevin Rose, who's the founder of Proof, which owns Moonbirds, has sort of given the alpha that there is a few, very few, I do not have one of these Moonbirds, a very few of them are inspired by Xcopy, which is one of the original artists, NFT artists, and they are going to airdrop, they're going to do a raffle, and somebody who owns those few rare NFTs, Moonbird NFTs, is going to get an Xcopy NFT. So you can see how they can reward, but they can also gamify. And just, I think it's super exciting to see these incredible applications of NFTs.
Absolutely. I think the only other thing I would add is these are all cool. And if you look at what Bored Ape Yacht Club has done, it's token after token after token just dropping. Until you create a product and generate revenue, all of this doesn't matter because it eventually goes to zero. So we'll see what Moonbirds does. They have big plans to build, and they've done it before in the Web2 world. So can you build? I mean, they build a brand from all this. Can you now build a business around that? That's the
exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you, everybody.
Couple things to note. We are hiring right now. We'd love you to join our team. If you are interested in joining our team, we're looking for marketers, copywriters, people who are interested in growing businesses in the Web2 and Web3 space, particularly around crypto and Web3, shoot us a message. Also, if you're not in our Discord, join our Discord. Yeah, can't wait to see you guys next week. Thanks for listening in.
Thank you for listening to Web3 Academy. We hope this helps you along your Web3 journey. And if it does, please share this episode and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. By the way, if you've yet to join the Discord community, you are missing out. This is where all the magic happens. This is where we learn, where we ask questions, where we network. You want to be in there. The link to join is in the description below. And finally, a quick disclaimer. Nothing in this podcast was financial advice. Crypto and Web3 can be risky. You can literally lose it all. In fact, if you invest on account of what we say, you probably will lose it all. So don't do that. In all honesty, the point of this podcast is to remove the noise of markets and price and focus on utility and implementation anyway. So you should not take any of this as financial advice. Thank you, friends, and see you in the next one.